This is Bailey with KMPL, bringing to you a DIY project. I'll be showing you how to create a cardboard house inspired by a log cabin design. If you like repurposing material or are searching for a new activity to pass the time, then look no further. There are kits with templates available on level 4 if you're interested in having similar dimensions to my house, but the great thing about this type of project is that the end product is extremely customizable to your vision. So you can also just use this video for inspiration and put your own twist on it. In your kits, you'll find a basic instruction sheet and templates you can use to shape your cardboard. Other supplies you'll likely need includes hot glue or craft glue, a pencil, scissors, an X-Acto knife or box cutter, and clear plastic. After the house is built, I'm going to winterize it, and I'll be using glitter and tissue paper to help me do that. These additions will be an added bonus to the house, so don't feel like you have to take these extra steps if you're going for a different aesthetic. Finally, if you want to add color to your house, I'd recommend using paint. With all that out of the way, let's get building. The first step I'd recommend taking is tracing the templates onto your cardboard. As you can see, the most basic pieces to the house are 2 side walls, a front and back wall, and 2 sections of roofing. Once you like how these look, go ahead and cut them out. Afterwards, glue the walls to each other like so. I often burn myself with hot glue, so I'm going to wear gloves for a little protection, and these will also come in handy when I paint because I can get quite messy. Yeah, I'm extra. Grab the front wall and a side wall to start, gluing them where they connect. You'll likely need to hold the pieces in place until they become stable enough to stand without your help. As you can see, I'm just reinforcing the sides now that I have them connected to each other. And, well, I like to use obscene amounts of glue. Keep attaching the sides in the same fashion until the full base of the house is built. Now it's time to put on the roof, focusing on one side at a time. Lay hot glue down on the cardboard where the first section of the roof will touch the walls of the house as seen here. Then, center the roof piece and have it so that the topmost section of the roof aligns with the peaks of the front and back walls. Press down to help the pieces adhere to each other. To attach the other half of the roof, put more glue down where the roof will hit the walls. Align it with the other roof piece and apply pressure. It's okay if the alignment isn't 100% perfect when it comes to the roof halves, and it's also okay to have some gapping between your roof and the walls because we'll be making shingles that will help cover up imperfections. Here's a look at the assembled pieces. For further detailing, you can add to the house a door with a roof over it and some stairs leading up to the door, which there are templates for in the kits. First, I'm going to glue the steps together. The smaller step will go on top of the larger one, with the flat ends matching up. For texture, I'm going to make the door look like it's made from wood by cutting random lengths of cardboard and gluing them to the door with a little bit of space between each plank. I'm not being too picky about the exact lengths of these strips because I find it faster to just trim all of these once they're in place rather than measure them out beforehand. When it comes to trimming, you can give the door more of a curved shape at the top or a flat look. Level the stairs with the bottom of the house when gluing them in place and put the door right above the stairs. Before you place the roof at the tip of the door, you can bend it so it has a slight curvature. This is the chimney extension you can make from your kit. You'll notice some dotted lines on the template, which are where you'll be folding the cardboard. I'd suggest perforating these lines to make it easier when you bend the cardboard. You can take a pen, pencil, or a pair of scissors, running it across the dotted lines. Don't apply so much pressure that you cut through to the other side of the cardboard. Instead, make slight indentations. Glue the chimney where the two outer sides meet. The bottom of the chimney that needs glued is the half with the slanted edges, and you can place the chimney anywhere on the roof. I'm going to put mine on the right side, slightly away from where the roof pieces meet, and reinforce with extra hot glue as necessary. Once again, it's okay if something doesn't perfectly align between your roof and chimney, because the shingles will help in covering that up too. Now it's time to work on windows. These can be put wherever you want. I'm going to have some rectangular windows and a circular one. And to help me create suggestions of what I'm going to cut out, I'm first going to draw the windows on in marker to act as a guide. I find it easiest to use an X-Acto knife to cut the windows out, but you can also use scissors, box cutters, and the like. Also, since trim will be put on later, the initial shape that gets cut out doesn't have to be flawless. Next, I'm going to make bricks to go along the chimney. Cut a length of cardboard that's roughly the size of each chimney side, and further cut these pieces into smaller rectangles like so. Since bricks are normally staggered, you can cut these reduced triangles into varying sizes before gluing them to the chimney. Offset each layer so they don't look identical. To make the house appear like it's made of wooden slats, you can take long pieces of cardboard and cut strips out of them. Similar to the bricks, chop the strips down further into odd lengths to establish breakage and an asymmetrical look among the rows of logs. These initial strips of cardboard can be as thick as you want. I'm leaving gaps in between the logs and trying to keep the rows as even across the house as I can. For wooden texture on the door and wooden slats, run an X-Acto knife over the pieces. For the door, use up and down motions. For the slats, run your hand left and right. I'd like to note that this step isn't necessary, but I like the dimension it adds to the structure. Here I'm creating a bit of an outline for frames around my windows by gluing thin slabs of cardboard in place. Shingles are next on the agenda. I find that the easiest way to make them is by taking a strip of cardboard, it doesn't matter how long or how wide it is, and slicing it on an angle so that I get trapezoids. In the kits there's also a template for shingles if you prefer tracing yours. In my opinion, cardboard like this is really thick to work with because of its layers, and I've also found it harder to paint. Therefore, I peel off one layer, discard the thinner portion, and glue down the thicker one with the ridged edge facing downward. The first layer of shingles can be applied at the bottom of the roof, and these can overhang off the edge a bit. I'm overlapping each shingle just slightly. Keep gluing shingles in horizontal lines, one above the next. Shingles can also be placed on the under awning of the roof as shown on this portion of the house. Start with the bottommost layer and build up. I like to cover up the seam of the roof right here. Cut strips of cardboard that are long enough to extend past both sides of the seam, and bend them in half before overlapping and gluing them. At this point, you have the choice to either finish the house as it is, or add scenery around it. The following is the scenery option, in which the house is surrounded by snow. Like so much in this video, my ground will once again be made out of cardboard. To make a spot for the house, trace its outline so that this section doesn't get covered by the snow. I suggest making a rough outline for what you want to be present. For instance, I'm going to place a tree in this spot. Using tissue paper, I'm going to cover this area with a rock texture. You might want to pick a light color if you're doing this step, because we're going to paint white on it, and a darker color might be harder to cover up. As a side note, we're also going to be adding gray to make for a rocky, snowy landscape. While you can glue the tissue paper down with Elmer's glue or something equivalent to it, I'm going to use Mod Podge. To start, lay glue down on a generously large area. Then, place tissue paper over it, patting it down with a brush that still has some glue on it. To make that rocky texture, you can let some of the paper bunch up so it looks rougher. Now comes the fun part of painting the house. As you can see, I'm using acrylics, and I'm also starting off with brown to enrich the log aesthetic that's going on. For the roof, I'm going to have a black base coat and come back once that's dry to add some red accents. This next step is optional, but you can take plastic containers and make them into simple window panes. It's okay if your plastic isn't crystalline because you can say it's snow or frost. I'm a fan of workarounds. I just gauged the size that's needed, but don't feel the pressure to be accurate with my measurements because I'm going to glue from the inside. In other words, you're not going to see the original shape of the plastic, only what's visible from the outside of the house. Sticking to the edges, I'm hot gluing the plastic before pressing it against the inside wall of the house where the window outline rests. With my brown base coat dry, I'm going to do a wash over it. I like to use a couple of colors, which in this case are red and orange. The wash is going to be watered down so that it has a faint application. If you would like to do the same to your house, get water on your brush and place it on a portion of your paint, mixing it around so that the paint is no longer solid. When you like the consistency of your paint, wipe it across and between the logs. At first, the wash might look a bit shocking against the brown, but it should fade as it dries so that the colors are duller. Here's a side that is closer to drying for reference. I'm now going to glue the house along the outline I previously made. It might be necessary to press it down to ensure it's locked in place. I feel better reinforcing the base, so I'm going to add more hot glue around the house. For dramatic effect, you can make snowdrifts out of egg cartons. Cut out these humps to act as mounds. I don't want the drifts to look impeccably formed, so I'm ripping the shape a little in the hopes they appear more organic. These snowdrifts or mounds can be glued to the base of your project. Also, the egg carton may melt a little. Don't be alarmed if that happens. Shifting focus back to the roof, you can take a brush that's dry and apply some paint to it for dry brushing. As I previously mentioned, I'm using red to accent the roof. My goal is to apply more paint to the bottom of the shingles and fade upward. Consequently, I press my brush a bit harder at the base of the shingles and lighten my pressure as I drag my brush up so that the red is less drastic the higher I go. Here's the house with the red dry brushing on the roof. I also added some orange to the chimney. As the roof dries, I'm going to turn my attention back to the platform the house is resting on. I want the eggshells to have a more cohesive look to the ground, so I'm going to glue some tissue paper over them, similar to how I glued the tissue paper to the cardboard base. By doing this, I'm trying to blend all of the ground pieces together. And well, now these drifts are red. This took a turn. Unlike me, you might want to make sure that the walls of the house are dry in case your brush hits them as you work. Not to fear though, I'll paint over this with white once it's dried. I also like the idea of trees around the landscape. I grabbed some branches I saw on the ground and broke them down to a scale that matched my project. Glue the tree's base to the desired location. Placing tissue paper around the tree will build up its sturdiness so that it stands better. Now that everything is in place on the base, I can go ahead and start creating a stone effect. Use a dark gray as the base color, but don't cover the snow mounds. Once the dark gray dries, you can add lighter shades to provide depth and give an icy stone effect. By the end, we'll have some areas of light and shadow. Over the egg cartons, you can add layers of white for snow. With this lighter gray layer, I'm not covering the dark gray entirely. Rather, I'm leaving small portions of dark gray in to establish those shadows I recently mentioned. Here, I'm adding white acrylic to reinforce the brightness of the snow and lose some of that tissue paper look. Now, I'm dry brushing details onto the stone steps. Dip the tip of your brush into the paint, lightly brushing the excess paint off on a paper towel. Then, run your brush over the surface you want to paint. You can also dry brush the door and the rest of the stone background. To make your trees snowy, add white paint on the trunk and branches. While your paint is still wet, you can make your snow sparkle by applying glitter. I'm also going to winterize the windowsills and sides of the house with more dry brushing, but how much detail you want to add is totally up to you. Any excess glitter, I tip off the house. If you want to lock the glitter more in place, you can wait for all the paint to dry before going over the house with a layer of Mod Podge. This product dries clear and will make the glitter less likely to shed. And there we have it, our finished house, which is currently on display this winter in the teen department. Thanks so much for watching, and if you take a kit and make a house or freehand one on your own, feel free to tag us in your creations. We'd love to see what you come up with.